Welcome to the Basketball Show podcast edition on the Stingray Network. I'm your host, Paul Serve. I am pleased to be joined by Ryan Reed. Ryan, nice of you to come back from Boston.
Yeah, I can't say I'm happy to be here compared to being in Boston the NBA Finals, but I'm here, so right.
Well, at least you're here physically. We know where you are in spirit only, and we have our special guest today, Kamal Mali. Kamal, good morning.
Good morning, Paul. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you here. Kamal does a ton of work for us on social media, and we're really grateful for that work and grateful to have Kamal with us this morning on what's going to be a fantastic show. First of all, I want to invite everybody, 1-833-401-1440, to text us your questions, observations on the NBA Finals, the WNBA, Caitlin Clark, controversies, anything basketball. Send your questions in. If you need help with your jump shot, I'll help you out. Just send them on in. Ryan, what's our poll question for today?
It's going to be related to the NBA Finals we were just talking about there. Just the Finals MVP so far. We have options: Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and then Luka Doncic if you think the Mavs can come back, or Luka Doncic pulls a Jerry West and wins it while losing.
That could happen in this case, quite possibly, if it were to go to 7 games. But we're going to talk about Jerry West a bit later, losing the great Jerry West recently. The loss of the 2 W's to the basketball world, those are 2 huge figures, not just because Jerry West is the model for the logo, the well-known logo of the NBA, but when you hear about what Jerry West did as a player, it's just unbelievable what kind of a basketball player he was. We have a great show lined up for you today. Our community superstar this morning is Lindsay Piper. Lindsay works with Mindbuffs. She's a sports psychologist, does work with a lot of professional athletes, a lot of athletes in general, including the Edmonton Stingers. Lindsay will join us. As well, we're going to have our Stingers report in our 1040 segment today. Big win for the Stingers last night over the Calgary Surge in an uneven match, but all that matters at the end of it is one letter, and that letter is W, and that's what the Stingers came home with. At 11 o'clock, we're going to have Pat Boylan back. Pat is just a phenomenal guy, and he's now the radio play-by-play announcer for the Indiana Fever. So we're going to get it right from the source about what's going on with all of the controversy about Caitlin Clark and the USA Olympic team, but also the WNBA this season and some of the growing pains that I think it's fair to say that they're experiencing. And then at 11:20, my son Steve Sir. Steve is back in the country. Steve is the head coach of the Mongolian national teams, both men and women, their U23, U18, and their main national teams. The men's team did everything they could to qualify for the Olympics, but had 2 heartbreaking losses on last-second shots to exclude them from the Olympics. But Steve is still the top-ranked 3x3 player and has been for many, many years in Canada. Steve will talk about our upcoming Hoop City 3x3 event. That's only 3 weeks away, 3 weeks from today. We're going to be down in Fan Park, and we're going to have some of the best 3x3 athletes in the world, many Olympians playing. We're going to have kids, adults playing as well. We're going to have teams trying to qualify to go to Shanghai and to Saskatoon. It's going to be just a phenomenal event. It's only 3 weeks away. It's creeping up really soon. But let's get going. Let's talk a little NBA. Last night, I don't think anybody expected the kind of blowout performance that the Dallas Mavericks put on a show last night. So let's start with this. Ryan, you had a firsthand experience. We'll lead into last night's performance. You just were in Boston. You were in Game 1 with your dad, which is very, very cool. What was it like?
The atmosphere was electric. It's a special experience compared to a normal NBA regular season game. I've been to a couple NBA regular season games. Just the final, you can feel it in the air. Everyone is so amped up for that moment. You're looking around, you see celebrities everywhere. 15 different news stations all across the board on the front of the court. And Boston fans are crazy. I'm not exactly a fan of Boston teams, but I can totally see why people like them growing up, especially when you're in Boston. The fans are crazy. The accent makes everything 3 times more funny, and it's electric in there.
You said something interesting though. in terms of raw fan noise, you when we were talking before we came on the show, you said the Oilers arena is louder than the Celtics arena.
I'd say that, yes. Maybe, I don't know. It's a different arena size. Like, I can't exactly encapsulate the exact measurements of each thing, but I would say from my first-hand experience, I'd say the Oilers fans are louder. But it's not to say the Celtics fans are not loud. Like, it's still deafeningly loud, and
of course
they get their chants going. Like the Kyrie sucks chant was electric there.
That must have been tremendous to be there for that. Like that, to me, that's just,
I'll never forget it.
That's amazing. I think that's part of what I consider to be the cool atmosphere of the NBA. As long as they don't go over the edge where they're just plain abusive of someone. But when you look at what Kyrie's tenure in Boston was really like, you see why they do it, and the fact that they're so passionate about it. And the history, I mean, seeing those banners must have been really fun.
Oh, yeah. All across the roof, you see all the numbers.
And the
you see
retired numbers.
Russell, exactly.
Oh, my God. Yeah, it's just phenomenal. But now I do have to ask you one other question, because you have told us on the show that sometimes you work for the Oilers. And you've had people, I mean, Ryan's a very tall guy. He's 6'6", good-looking guy. And he's walking around down at Rogers Place, and people will come up and think he's a hockey player and ask him for his autograph. Now, did that happen to you in Boston?
Someone thought I was Luka, but I think
someone
they were
thought you were Luka?
Yeah. It was on a
big thick glasses. This person had big thick glasses.
Yeah,
they were cleaning them, and
I was on a tour on a boat, and then I got called up, and he's like, "You Luka?"
Should have gave him an autograph.
Yeah. You should have. You should have.
I just got an accent going, and it was all over.
Oh my gosh! You should have seized the moment on that one. So somebody thought you would. I'm not surprised. Ryan definitely has that look about him. So. Kamal, first time on the show.
Yeah.
Kamal is a social media genius. Kamal, let's move this progression along. Your impression of the series so far?
Man, I'll be super honest. I'm not a Boston Celtics fan at all. Mm-hmm. I'm a Lakers fan, so I kind of go against everything that Boston's trying to do here. But I got to give it to the Mavs. The last game, especially, I was a little nervous. Seeing what the Oilers were doing and seeing what the Mavs were doing. Felt like it was going the same way, the same direction. But I'm really happy Mavs pulled a win. Overall, I see Boston's. They're just shooting lights out. They're playing some great basketball. I'll have to give it to them. But yesterday, for sure, Mavs got the win that they needed.
They certainly did, A, to keep the series going, but B, what I'm interested always is translation. What do you carry forward, especially from a blowout win? Blowout wins oftentimes are sugar highs. Mm-hmm. One team explodes, and we saw that in Game 1, for instance, in this series. One team explodes, the other team fades, and what you try to do on both sides of the ball is not have the losing team that's getting blown out formulate bad habits or start bickering or start getting distracted on the court, which disrupts your flow. And on the winning side, you don't get lazy and take it for granted. But what was hopeful last night, aside from the lopsided victory, what was hopeful to me were a couple of things. Number one, Luka Doncic played bully ball. He did not mess around last night. Straight to the basket, physically overwhelmed, whether it was Drew Holiday or Derek White, overwhelmed them. They're great defenders, elite defenders. Some people have called them the best defensive backcourt in the history of the NBA. Lots of those platitudes. That sounds like a hot take on TikTok. But to me, they're one of the elite all-time defensive backcourts. They're phenomenal competitors and players. But Luka last night owned them and made no bones about it. But to me, the most hopeful sign for Dallas to have a shot at winning the next game is the fact that other players, role players, contributed a lot offensively. Yeah. People started hitting shots, even including Tim Hardaway, who was their third leading scorer during the regular season and has absolutely been useless in the playoffs. And when you have a player that could be that impactful, because Hardaway should be able to hit some shots and should be able to create some of his own shots. He's that kind of player. Not a star, certainly not a superstar, not even a star, not remotely close, but effective. he could be effective. He could be another option offensively, which would then take some of the pressure off Doncic and Kyrie. Ryan, I know you have some thoughts on
that's
this.
all they need. And that's not all they need. It's kind of unfair to say, but when it's just Luka shooting shots, and like when I was in the person watch the game, they'd come on down, they do an ISO or some sort, get a little pick and roll going, and they'd have to try to score because they know if they kicked it, PJ was missing shots. Tim hadn't hit a shot since May 17th or something like that.
Yeah.
And then no one else was, like Derek Jones Jr. couldn't hit a three either. They had to do it themselves. And again, that's going to result in inefficiency and stuff like that. So when Tim Hardaway, he had 5 threes in a quarter. I think he's one of 3 people to ever do that in the NBA Finals, which is kind of random.
Random, unexpected, but hopefully carries forward.
Hopeful as well.
Yeah, and I think, too, like Jason Kidd received a lot of criticism for playing Tim Hardaway in Game 3. I don't see where the criticism – I understand where the criticism comes from because it's low-hanging fruit. It's easy to take a cheap shot. How do you get a guy who is capable of performing, hasn't been performing, but how do you get a guy who's capable of performing and contributing going again unless you play and work through? And it wasn't like anybody else was hitting shots. Kamal, you have a take, I believe.
Yeah, I was just going to build on Ryan's point here. He's absolutely right. You can't just always have the ball in Kyrie or Luka's hands. You got to pass that ball. You got to kick that ball out. And I think yesterday's win was a great example of a team win. You got Lively, a rookie who's 20 years old, just absolutely going bananas in the paint, right? And that's exactly what you want from a rookie that you have so much trust in. In Hardaway, great point. Like he went on a run. Obviously, he was playing in the last quarter. But he built that momentum, and I was talking to my buddy yesterday. This is the win you need in a game 4. In a game 4, when you're about to get swept, this is the win that you need. And hopefully, I was just going to say, hopefully the Mavs go on a run from here.
Well, and I think those are good points, but I think the fact now that Hardaway knows he can make shots in game situations, the pressure was off. It was garbage time.
Yes.
So the pressure's off. Everybody's hitting shots. We know that. But the energy of the combination in the post of Gafford and Lively with Porzingis being out. Now, I don't know if there's there's no hope that Porzingis is back this series. So with Porzingis out, they really have the opportunity to assert themselves in the center. With Kyrie getting on track, that's big. With Luka physically dominating and being very purposeful and actually trying to guard somebody. That's fantastic in and of itself. I'll tell you, I didn't agree with any of the criticism of Jason Kidd trying something new because they needed to find someone else that was going to contribute. So he went back to Hardaway, as I mentioned, their 3rd leading scorer through the course of the season. But then, but what I did agree with all of the criticism on Luka, you got to play some defense. Yeah. You got to at least pretend that you're playing some defense, and he did that last night. What he demonstrates is he's not quick laterally. He doesn't jump well vertically, and he's not fast relative to the NBA. But he's bigger, stronger, the most fundamentally sound basketball player I think probably ever in
Jokic?
Terms of Jokic. But I think if you want to look at skill sets at a post, Jokic is probably is the most versatile and best. But if you're looking at the wing to guard,
the ball handler,
a guy with the ball who can do everything, Bird, Michael. I mean, heck, people would argue with this and say, well, what about LeBron? Yeah, LeBron's great. LeBron can't do offensively what Luka can do. He does other things better than Luka, lots of other things. But if you had to say, you did one of those comparative charts and you had to say, pick Luka or LeBron as the best overall, highly skilled, fundamental player. I mean, to me, the answer is clear cut. It's Luka Doncic. Yeah. Like nobody does what
LeBron relies more on athleticism and just like blowing by people and hammering on people versus Luka can be more crafty with it.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and I think LeBron doesn't have the arsenal and variety of shots that Luka has. I mean, you can't argue with LeBron's greatness, but you can not equal, I don't think, what Luka can do in terms of his versatility. So where I was going with it, though, was going into Game 5 now, Dallas has a blowout win, a bunch of players hitting shots, and a Boston team that has never won the big one. Now, they still most likely will win the big one. This will be their year. You can't watch last night without questioning yourself like, yeah, maybe they took the night off because they want to celebrate in Boston. Like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm just looking at it and going, that just didn't
I think that's a real thing, though.
Yeah, that just didn't make sense. Like, to play that badly with that lack of effort. And on the other hand, it was just, regardless of that, whether you're a conspiracy theorist or not, but regardless of that, it was Dallas's night. Now they go back to Boston, 1-game stand. And we're going to talk next to Lindsay Piper, and that'll be one of the questions that we talk about in sports psychology, focusing on the moment. So, great start to our conversations today. We have a wonderful show today. Come back for Lindsay Piper from Mindbuffs. Get a dose of sports psychology. We have great guests coming up and more chatter about the Stingers, the WNBA, NBA Finals, 3x3, the Hoop City 3x3 Festival. Everybody get your tickets, register your teams. Get on out there July 5th to the 7th down in Fan Park. Here on the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. We're going to go into our community superstars spotlight now. And the saying goes that it takes a village to raise a child. And the same holds true that it takes partners to offer safe and enjoyable sport participation opportunities. The Basketball Show features a conversation with one of these partners every week that give their time, energy, expertise, and commitment to offer information, perspective, and places for kids of all ages to play basketball in and around our city and province. I'd like to thank all of our partners. We'll be talking about them through the show. First segment, we're going to talk about Wheelchair Basketball Alberta, the work that they do. I'll read their blurb later, but first I want to get to our guest today, and Lindsay is a new guest. Lindsay Piper works for Mindbuffs, and she is a sports psychologist as it relates to basketball. She works, one of her many clients that are athletes are the players on the Edmonton Stingers, and I'd like to welcome Lindsay to the program. Lindsay, good morning.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Doing great. Glad to have you here. Lindsay, Lindsay was quick to respond, and I really appreciate your company reaching out, Mindbuffs. Lindsay, tell us about yourself. You're a sports psychologist. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I'm a registered provisional psychologist at Mindbuffs, and we specialize in sport and performance, and basketball happens to be kind of my main area of interest and my niche because I kind of grew up playing basketball and played college basketball, so it's just continued to be my passion and kind of the main athlete that I want to work with and help them elevate themselves and, maintain and manage any stress or anxiety to get to that next level.
Where'd you play, Lindsay?
I played for Concordia in Edmonton.
Really? For Robbie?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good. Having coached there for many years, you were the post-Paul Sir era at Concordia when Reagan...
too funny.
Yeah, Reagan Wood was my assistant for a lot of years before he took over and had a great run. So, okay, Lindsay, that's a great perspective to lead into this. Now, you work with the Stingers. Let's start there. You're dealing now with a particular type of professional athlete. The Stingers are comprised of players that have all played college or university. Many of them are playing in locations around the world or preparing for their first venture to go overseas or play in the G League, etc. And they come together in this league, the CEBL, which is now in its sixth year. It's a phenomenal league for uniting Canada around a professional basketball league. How do you deal? What are the kinds of issues, concerns, conversations that you have with these athletes that you feel are unique to this kind of lifestyle?
Well, I think most specific to this lifestyle is that a lot of them are away from home, or they're trying to make these other teams and these other leagues, right, while also trying to balancing being on a new team and having to build that rapport within their team. So there's a lot of work on getting to know each other and each other's tells on how they play and how to support each other, all the while supporting themselves in managing their confidence and their expectations of themselves while trying to perform on this team, while also knowing that they're away from home and friends and families and balancing all of that.
You've just described the glamorous lifestyle that these men and women face when they play professional athletes. And I say that with somewhat with tongue in cheek, because for the most part, I mean, it's fun to play basketball and get paid for it, but it's a very stressful lifestyle for a lot of the reasons that you both described and alluded to there, Lindsay, because performance, job security, being away from family and friends, in some cases having families. It's a very pressure-packed lifestyle, isn't it?
For sure, yeah, and you explained it well. Some of them have just left their friends and families, and some of them, have kids that they are away from too. So there is a lot intertwined. So it's a really cool experience working with a team like this when there's these additional factors to take account.
I'm talking with Lindsay Piper. She is a sports psychologist working at Mindbuffs, joining us today on the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. Lindsay, I'm going to dial it down now to younger athletes, athletes who are competing in their formative years. Is that part of your work, to work with younger people as well?
Oh, 100%. I love working with kids and teens as well. And a lot of that focus is making sure that they still know the reason why they're playing. I think that kids have all these big expectations of what they want to do when they get older, or they watch these older guys like the Stingers and they set these goals, or their parents set goals for them. So it's also about bringing back in the fun that they're having. Like, why did you start playing sports in the first place? And really having them focus on that and spending time with their friends. I think that that's a huge factor about keeping them like retained in sport.
Do you think, Lindsay, and you and I, in our getting to know each other yesterday in a preliminary call, we touched on this topic, but it's a broader, in-depth topic for another time. But I love that perspective of why you're playing. Do you think, though, that in some respects, and I don't mean this overly disrespectfully to the basketball community, but do you think there's been an emphasis on somewhat professionalizing youth sports in the way that in clubs and teams have been created in today's environment? Do you think that the pressure for professionalizing, for performance, maybe sometimes exceeds where it should be when kids are in their formative years, learning how to play, and, as you stated, understanding why they're playing?
Totally. I think that's a really good point that you bring up. What I and the rest of the team here at Mindbuffs see a lot is these kids coming in and they have enormous amounts of pressure put on them, whether it's from coaches or parents or themselves, to get to that next level. And I think it's just really difficult dynamic of having fun, but this coach has also said that I can make it, and I feel like I owe my parents to do well because they paid for it and they want me to do well. And it's this really, really complicated conversation that comes up a lot with kids.
And I think it runs across the sports spectrum, too. This is not exclusive to basketball. I think it's more of a societal trend across all sport as organizations have inserted themselves, and really started to dominate the sports landscape of the pay-for-play model and what the expectations are as the outcomes of that model.
I agree. Like I said, I told you yesterday, I grew up in Sherwood Park, so I think that's very prominent in hockey too. So it is something that we see a lot of.
So lots of pressure. But it still comes down to having fun. One of the things I've read many, many times, quotes by outstanding Hall of Fame athletes, professional athletes from a variety of sports across the whole sports landscape. And their advice to parents and to kids is, first things first, play and have fun. Find a vehicle that fits your lifestyle, your budget, and go out there and play and have fun, build friendships, build memories, but don't apply so much pressure to yourself to perform at this high level and reach what oftentimes might be unachievable goals.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. We talk a lot about the things that are in our control and outside of our control. And exactly what you just said, it's okay to encourage kids to train hard. And if you see potential, to give them those opportunities, but also remembering to be realistic in that, maybe if you go onto a team and you're not the all-star player that you thought you were going to be, or that your parents thought you were going to be, maybe it's not you. Maybe it's just the role on your team that needed to be filled isn't the role that you usually play.
Well, and I think, Lindsay, that's such a great point, and you put that very, very well. But I think role playing and those are the life lessons that are so invaluable from sport. And I'd be curious on your take on this. Is that learning, maximizing your ability, but your ceiling may not be is going to be unique to you. It's not going to be like everybody else's ceiling, and your role within the team is extremely valuable. No matter what that role is, whether you're the third person off the bench, whether you're the star on the team, but teaching how within that context and framework where you fit, and that there's tremendous value to where you fit. That really is the most important thing that I think should build your self-esteem, not tear it down if you don't meet your expectations.
Definitely. And like you said, life lesson of teaching kids that and moving up in sport, of finding your role on teams. And just because you're not a starting five or a star player or whatever, that doesn't mean that you have no self-worth, and that doesn't mean that you aren't a valuable player on that team.
Do you do work with coaches?
Yes, but I would love to do even more work with coaches.
Oh, I love that statement.
Yeah.
That's a topic for another time as well. And this is as a former coach, Lindsay, who looks back on his career. I coached over a long time, and looking back and sometimes shaking my head and going, why didn't I understand this at that time? I'm sure that's when coaches reflect. Oftentimes they reflect, and in looking back on, they wish they would have understood something about coaching kids or coaching in certain situations that they didn't. Before we wrap up, Lindsay, is there any? Could you share with our listeners how they can get in touch with you and with Mindbuffs, please?
Yeah, 100%. So you can just Google Mindbuffs, like MINDBUFFS. Our email is info@mindbuffs.com, and my email is lindsay@mindbuffs.com. So we're pretty easy to get a hold of, and then you can just specify what it is you're wanting to chat about and with who, and we set you up with whatever you need.
Lindsay, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for making time this morning, and we will do this again. And we will focus on a couple of the issues that we touched on today. So all the best, and thank you again for your time this weekend, and hope to see you out at the Hoop City 3x3 Fest in a couple of weeks. Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me, Paul. We'll chat soon. Lindsay Piper from Mindbuffs joining us today. That was a fun conversation, and I think it's clear that I have strong feelings about some of these things, and I want to say a lot of it is from what I consider to be both positives, negatives, good decisions, and mistakes I made through my career. And in looking back, what I've grown to understand, that I think now we're in desperate need of common sense injections into the sports landscape in how kids are learning how to play. And so we'll be delving into that probably more so in the fall when the show comes back on in October. But we want to focus on that because there's a lot of need for more dialogue about decisions that are being made, perspectives that are being offered, and how kids internalize and learn and experience playing in sports. So looking forward to that. So it was great to have Lindsay on. We're going to, speaking of great win last night for the Stingers over the arch rival Surge down in Calgary. Kind of a scary ending, target score ending, but we'll talk about that more. We'll be back with head coach Jordan Baker in just a moment, and we'll have a great talk about the Stingers and the CEBL coming up here on the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. Our 80s hits extravaganza continues on the Basketball Show. I'm your host, Paul Sir, joined by Kamal and Ryan today. And this is our Stinger segment. Stingers' big win over the Calgary Surge last night. The Surge have been playing better. Good win for the Stingers. Lots of good to take from it. We'll talk a little bit more about the game a bit later. But first of all, I'd like to share an interview I had with second-year Stinger Nick Hornsby. Nick's from Irvine, California. Nick really, he's a very, very thoughtful guy, invaluable role player. And by that, I mean not a diminished role, but a role where he does a little bit of everything all the time. Nick's a great leader on the team. Here's my conversation with Nick. I'm pleased to be welcomed by Nick Hornsby of the Edmonton Stingers. Nick is in his second year with the Stingers, and he joins me now. Nick, how are you?
I'm doing good. Nice sunny day in Edmonton today. No clouds, so definitely happy today.
Well, we enjoy our month of summer here, and it takes a while to come, and it goes too quickly. But when it's here, it's really nice. So, Nick, tell me about you're in year 2 with the Stingers. You're a great all-around player and leader. You lead the Stingers in a number of categories, but so much of what you do doesn't show up on the stat sheet. Is this the type of player you've always been?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, going back to high school and college, I just really enjoyed being able to do a lot of different things and just being, like you said, a leader for the team, a high-energy guy. So I think that role always needs to be filled on every team, especially successful teams. So, I think that's why Baker has me here. I've always heard a lot of stories about how Baker used to do all these things, and he was a high energy guy. So I think our ways of playing were similar. So I think that, I've always been very into, you got to go to the boards hard. You got to make that extra pass to get your team going and stuff like that. Talk to the guys that you need to talk to about certain things. So, yeah.
Well, that's an interesting thought that you have taken over Baker's. You've taken the baton from Baker and carried on. I've always thought of you as Baker-like, but I never thought of you in that specific a way. And I think it's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I wouldn't say that. Baker is a Edmonton legend, so I would never be able to step into such greatness. But I think I was watching highlights of him like maybe last year and before I came, just to get an understanding of what kind of player he was, because I remember somebody telling me that he used to play. So seeing him play and seeing all the things that he was doing, it was crazy to me, because I was like, wow, this is just good basketball. He works hard. He does all these things. And, that's something that people appreciate. And as a player, you appreciate it. Like, you don't come in and you see a coach that was like, you didn't like how they played. You know what I mean? So being able to see that, and then the system that he's put in, and the care for the team and the city of Edmonton is really another reason that I came back to. So, yeah, he's just a good overall guy and was a great player now that he's retired.
It's hard sometimes for me to look at Jordan and think, he's retired, because there's a lot of gas in the tank
for sure
as a player, but to be able to focus his energies on the team and developing a team, which this year you're off to a 4-2 start. Had a rough game the other night, a real tough game against Vancouver. What are you focusing on this week in practice, Nick?
I would say just getting ourselves into the right positions. I mean, I think a couple possessions we were offensively not in the right position, also defensively not in the right position and not on the same page. Baker says a lot like, we've only been together for a month, but now it's been over a month, so we need to kind of tighten things up and get to the right place. So just that, being in the right position, being defensively aware, having a little toughness. I think the Niagara Vancouver game they kind of tested our toughness a little bit. So we just need to bounce back from that and hopefully be on the same page next game.
Well, next game is against the Calgary Surge, and you beat them badly in the Saddle Dome in the opening weekend, but they're a different team now. They've had a couple of good wins, and they're starting to find their stride. I think they've picked up a couple of different players, so it's not going to be the same Calgary team, and you and I both know that they're going to be out to beat their northern rivals. So Does that,
Definitely.
you're from California, but are you getting a sense and the flavor for the rivalry between these two cities?
I got the sense of the rivalry last year. I think we played them 5 times or something last year, and it was like we didn't really win a lot of those games, but I mean, I felt that rivalry, like walking around and in the expo, people saying you better go beat Calgary and stuff like that. So I mean, definitely feel that rivalry. They're, like you said, they're a different team than they were when we first played them, and I would say that we are too. I think that those 2 losses have kind of opened our eyes and made us realize we're not unbeatable, you know. So I think it'll be a good game, and we'll definitely hopefully be able to come out with a win and be able to, you know, bounce back from our past 2 losses. So.
I'm talking with Nick Hornsby, second-year Edmonton Stinger, has taken the mantle of the Swiss Army knife from his coach and mentor, Jordan Baker, here with me on the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. What is it about the CEBL that you like, Nick?
Man, I just like the competition, the competition, and also this team in general. I would say competition-wise, you have a lot of G League guys, a lot of overseas guys that come to the league and are looking to play, and they're good players. And it's a little more physical, a little faster paced than a couple of leagues overseas. And also just the team that this team, the Stingers organization, has honestly just been the most professional organization that I've been a part of. They've taken care of both me and my family, which is huge. So like, I don't have to worry about anything off the court, and on the court, they take care of everything. So, and they just bring in good people, good coaches, you know, good staff. So I think that's huge when you feel so comfortable and have so much trust and belief in an organization. I think it's just an easy decision to just be able to sign back for another year, you know? So, yeah.
Well, we're glad you're here, Nick. And I'd build just a little bit on your comment. Edmonton really is a special place. Like there was one fellow from the U.S. who did a lot of work up in Edmonton, used the descriptor of, this is a city that punches above its weight. You know, we're way up north. We're kind of away from everything. But when you get here, there really is a special spirit about this. And the people here are incredible. They walk the walk. And I'm so glad that you and your family are being taken care of. So one final basketball question.
Okay.
This is a biggie. Can Dallas win one against the Celtics?
Oh, man. It's unfortunate because I'm a very big Luka fan. And I can see him winning one. Yes, I can see him winning one. I think that him and Luka and Kyrie have a really good game. Maybe Derek Lively or Gafford do something a little bit different or have a better game. You know, they just need probably like one more role player to just have a good game. They'll probably get a game, but it's just so hard to, in my opinion, Boston's all around playing is just so good. Like, they have so many good players at every position and such good depth as well. I mean, you have a couple guys coming off the bench that are hitting shots as well, and they're not afraid of the moment. So I'll give them one game. I wanted Dallas to win in 6, but that doesn't look like that's going to happen. So
it's always interesting, isn't it, though, because the Eastern Conference is regarded as not as strong as the West. We, myself included, mostly all assumed that Dallas would get in there and that toughness against the soft East. But Boston had the best record in the league for a lot of reasons, not just a reason. They're really good. So, well, I appreciate your optimism that they can sneak one away. And but the game that we're most interested in is the game against Calgary. So, best of luck, Nick. Thanks so much for joining me today, and go get the Surge. And I hope we can talk again soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. We'll definitely try to get it done on Friday. Excited to head back to Calgary for another rivalry game.
No pressure. Edmonton, yeah. You know, they really don't care whether you beat Calgary or not, and that's the biggest lie I've told today so far. So, Nick Hornsby, second-year player with the Edmonton Stingers, joining me here on the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. I'm pleased to be welcomed by Great young man. Nick Hornsby played really well last night against Calgary. I had a chance as well to catch up with Coach Baker on his way down to the game yesterday. Here's that interview. I'm joined by the head coach and general manager of the Edmonton Stingers. And in fact, Jordan is in the bus on the way down to Calgary. So this is a pre-tape, but it's great to have you on the show, Jordan.
Great to be here once again.
So Jordan, we won't talk about, anything specifically about the last 2 games, a couple of losses, but a lot of learning goes into any team during the season. What are the takeaways that you've been emphasizing, you and the coaching staff have been emphasizing this week to the team?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for us is, you look at the scores of the games that we lost, and teams are putting up 93 and 100 points. We pride ourselves on our defensive intensity, our ability to limit teams and keep them in the 70s or the low 80s. And we just haven't been able to do that over the past couple of games. So for us, it's a re-engagement and a refocusing on our defense. That's going to be priority number 1 for us. And we watched some film, and there's been lots of adjustments and some things that need to be cleaned up. So, we're back all on the same page, hopefully going into tonight's game.
That's just part of the journey, especially when you have the short runway that teams have of blending this much talent together, both on both ends of the basketball. So you head down to Calgary. They've won a couple of games recently. What's changed with the Surge since the blowout win for the Stingers in the opening game of the season?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, they're now starting to get used to each other a little bit more, playing a little bit more cohesive basketball. The biggest thing for them is they're really shooting it right now. In their last win over Winnipeg, they shot 57% from 3. So our job tonight is to make their lives difficult. Nothing easy in transition, and nothing easy from behind that 3-point line.
Have they added other personnel, or is this just the existing personnel, as you just said, getting used to each other?
They've added an American player named Trey Mitchell, who's done a good job spacing the floor for them. Matthew Kamba, the former Edmonton Stinger, he was only in the country for about 12 hours before he played that first game at the Saddle Dome. So he's settling in and playing well for them. But yeah, they've just done a good job of getting guys a little bit better opportunities from 3, getting some open ones. And so, that's our challenge tonight, is to try to make their lives difficult, and cohesion or not, keep them in that 70 to 75 point mark.
Jordan, what's the health of the team? Do you have any injuries of note? Are you 100%? So where is the team at?
Right now we are firing on all cylinders, which is great. With the understanding that it is a long season, and we've got a stretch of games coming up in early July, where we play, I think, 7 games in 16 days or something like that. Combination of home games and games on the road. So we're gearing up for that stretch, understanding that health and depth is going to be an important factor for us.
Well, what's impressive to me is the professional approach that you and your staff are taking, as well as the organization itself. And I had all of the players that I've had the opportunity and the privilege to interview, Jordan, all speak very, very, very highly of those facts. So you're paying attention to details. Kudos to you and your staff, and I hope it pays dividends with a W tonight down in Calgary.
Yeah, we're excited for it, and we've preached all along that our depth is our strength. So you never know who the hero could be tonight, and we're excited to see what the game brings.
Well, best of luck tonight, Jordan. We'll be talking about this on the show tomorrow. We'll be talking about the results, but thanks for spending a few minutes on the bus ride down.
Thank you.
Good conversation with Jordan Baker. He talked very fluently about what they needed to do, and they went out and did it. They got the win, 91-84 over the Surge. They made the what they call the target time a little probably too interesting for their liking. They had a big lead going into it. They gave it up. I think Calgary cut it to 5. But then Edmonton's own Ben Cricky hit the game-winning shot to end the game. Exciting signing now for the Stingers. They just signed a player, Trey McGowan, and you're going to want to watch this kid play. He's good. So it's a nice addition to the team. One thing in the takeaways from last night, Jordan talked about making sure that they ran the Calgary players off the line, as they say in the NBA. to not get clean looks with the three, and they did a phenomenal job, particularly in the first half, probably partway through the third quarter before their defense started to soften up a bit, and then Calgary started hitting some shots. And just when the Stingers would build up a 15 to 19 point lead, Calgary would go on a run, hit a couple of threes, and even though the score 91-84 it's a nice win, Calgary missed an epic amount of free throws last night. It would have been a much different game if they had hit even a reasonable percentage of it. So the Stingers they certainly have work to do, but they made a big stride forward, got back on the winning track. They're now 5-2 going into their game on Sunday in Winnipeg against the Sea Bears. Ryan, you've got something. What's our poll update right now? Where are we at? And by the way, everybody, before Ryan jumps in with the poll update, text us in if you want to have any comments or questions. NBA Finals, WNBA, anything on your mind regarding basketball? 1-833-401-1440 is our text line. And Ryan, your poll numbers.
Yeah, so over on Twitter, as we mentioned earlier, basketball_show, we're talking about the Finals MVP. Jaylen Brown is the favorite so far. Luka Doncic did not have a single vote, and there's quite a few votes still, so it's unfortunate for the Mavericks, but it makes sense. They're up 3-0, 3-1. Yeah. Drew Holiday, 20% of the vote. Jason Tatum has 20% of the votes. Jaylen Brown has 60% of the vote.
Really? So yeah. Tatum is tied with Drew. Yeah, that's interesting. I guess when you talk about it, Drew Holiday has been impressive, and Tatum has been very good at times, but not what you would expect from Tatum overall in terms of consistency through the entire series. So, but everybody, you can check out all the CEBL games on CEBL Plus. Just go to their website, and also you can listen to us online on the Stingray network and listen to our podcasts as well. And we're Kamal, could you update people as well on our how they can follow us on social media, please?
Yeah, so you can follow us on 3 different ways. Instagram, at the B-Ball Show. TikTok, we're on TikTok as well, at the B-Ball Show. And you can follow us on X as well, basketball_show.
Thanks, Kamal. And we're going to be back after we take a break for these messages. And I'm really looking forward to our next segment when we bring back Pat Boylan, the radio play-by-play voice of the Indiana Fever. He was working with the Pacers. Now he's moved over to the Fever. And we're going to be able to have a fulsome and robust discussion about the Caitlin Clark phenomenon in the WNBA, about how the WNBA has handled this year, about the USA Olympic team selection. And so it's going to be a really fun discussion. Can't wait for it to happen. So come on back for hour 2 of the basketball show with Ryan and Kamal here on Sports 1440. Pat Boylan joins us once again. Pat is the radio voice, play-by-play of the Indiana Fever. Pat, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's good to be back.
Great to have you back. Well, you've made the transition from the NBA to the WNBA. And Pat, my little intro would be this. Back in the 70s when Saturday Night Live came on the air, John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, all of the great comedians from that era were part of a group called the Not Ready for Primetime Players. My observation of the WNBA so far with the Caitlin Clark phenomenon has, at times, the league seems like it's not quite been ready for primetime and all the attention that's been thrust upon it.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate. You know, I think in many ways there are many different areas where I think the sporting world, in fact, has not quite been ready for Caitlin Clark. Some of the discourse that you've seen has frankly been a little bit exhausting. And the WNBA has never seen anybody even close to this level of stardom. And we've had incredibly talented players. And frankly, in my opinion, players that are worthy of this kind of attention previously to Caitlin Clark, but we've never seen anything like this. It's really stunning to be a part of. She is every single game she is bringing in sold out arenas. She's bringing in brand new records for television numbers and viewership on the TV side. We're traveling to road games, and every road arena that we go to is sold out. And so just in every way, this is a brand new experience for us, for the WNBA. And I think, trying to figure out how to navigate this new situation is something we're all trying to do.
Well, it's interesting you frame it that way, Pat, because number one, it's of course extremely accurate. But when I hear you just read out the litany of positives for the WNBA, there's no argument, I don't think, that could be made that said it's not Caitlin's entry into the WNBA has been different from anybody's. Her record-breaking last 2 years and the attention that she garnered, the kind of fan interest that she generated, and the short turnaround from the NCAA into the WNBA are all real unique circumstances. But going back to my point about listening to what you said, to me, I'm listening to your statement. I'm going, well, what's the problem here? You have everything's great, and yet people are trying to make it not great. I find that baffling.
Well, yeah, I guess that would be the point that I was trying to make, which is just this is such an incredible positive and an incredible moment for the WNBA, for women's basketball, for all of sports. Debbie Antonelli is who I call games with. She is one of the very best color analysts in the world. You see her in the NCAA men's tournament, a lot on the women's side too. She works at a very, very high level, and we're lucky to have her. And she talks about all the time Caitlin Clark being the great disruptor. She has referenced being at games where she has called games where when the players are at the free throw line, they could hear her, meaning Debbie, from the sideline calling the game because there just weren't people in the stands. And to have this moment and to have it be right now it's exciting and it's exhilarating. And I'm not saying that everybody should take this standpoint or this viewpoint of bow down to Caitlin Clark. But what we're seeing right now, it's unprecedented, and it's the phrase that I've been using over the last couple of months, probably more than any, is the rising tide lifts all boats phrase, and I think it's so true. Look, there are players that have been deserving of attention before her. I could see why a player might feel like, hey, I'm an MVP. Why do I not have the type of attention that Caitlin has? Or I could see a rookie saying, look, I'm also part of this growth movement. And I think both of those statements can absolutely be true. But this is a landmark time right now for the WNBA and women's sports. What Caitlin is bringing, the eyeballs that she is bringing, is completely unprecedented. And what people are going to do, I think, is, and I think it's already started to happen, they're going to watch the game because they want to see Caitlin, and they're going to bring new eyeballs to the game. But they're going to watch Breanna Stewart, and they're going to watch Asia Wilson, and they're going to watch Alyssa Thomas, and they're going to go, wow, these players are really entertaining to watch. I'm going to tune into their next game too. I think they're going to come for Caitlin, but they're going to stay for the product and the top players in this league. And I think that's going to be very good for everybody.
I totally agree. And I'm talking with Pat Boylan, the radio play-by-play voice of the Indiana Fever, here on the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate in the next couple of things I'm going to say, Pat, because I want to get your reaction to it. Like, number one, there's historical precedence for this. This is Tiger Woods. This is Bird and Magic. This is Michael Jordan. These are players that galvanize fan viewing, fan interest at a time when nobody else has been able to do it for a variety of reasons, some of which you can't quantify. All you can say is it happened because it happened, and now it's brought all this attention. So whether it's I think wonderment at the phenomenon of what's taking place right now, but that has translated into a number of things that I hope are just short-term, short-lived, and are growing pains for the WNBA. But I was talking to one analyst whose name escapes me right now, but she was doing the women's NCAA. And she was saying, I hope we don't kill the goose that lays the golden egg. And because I agree with you, but if there's a lot of the what I would call pettiness that continues in an ongoing way, people have to understand this is temporary now that you want to turn into permanent. And it will if people watch the game, because I agree with you. We had a WNBA game up in Edmonton between L.A. and Seattle, sold out, packed house. Everybody stayed till the end. And we have a great women's basketball tradition up here. But apologize for being a little bit long-winded with my point. But my point is the WNBA has to embrace this, I think, a bit differently. I think even as prepared as they thought they were, they're learning lessons that and oftentimes that happens. You learn lessons that you didn't really expect to learn in a way you didn't expect to learn them.
No question. And I agree with everything that you said there. I think from a WNBA standpoint, there are things that they can control that they're learning how to handle here for the very first time. And when you reference the kill the golden goose type phrase, the one that the area that actually sticks out to me even more so as something that I hope doesn't happen is just from the general discourse we've seen from some of this stuff. I mean, I put myself in Caitlin's shoes, and she has done nothing but do the right thing, nothing but say the right thing. She's not been controversial at any point in her career, be it at Iowa and the WNBA, and yet she's surrounded in all of this discourse and all of this conversation, and unfortunately a lot of it has turned into negative. And I would imagine that would just have to be really exhausting. She says she stays off social media, but then goes on her iPad to check the news, and her name is right there in the top of the headlines. I mean, you just can't avoid it. And I think for me, that would be the concern. And I thought she came out with probably the strongest statement that I've ever heard her say. Granted, we're talking less than 2 months that she's been here and about a month of games. But I was actually really happy for her and glad that she went the direction that she did before our game on Thursday when somebody asked her about the hate and the misogyny that some bad faith actors are using her name and attaching it to it and trying to push their narrative. And she said, don't use my name to push any agenda. I'm paraphrasing, but it's close. And I was glad to hear her say that because she has taken every right step along the way. She doesn't deserve to be a part of this controversy. She hasn't asked to be a part of any sort of controversy. And frankly, to go back to the beginning of our discussion, I don't know why there is any controversy.
It's so stupid.
All she has done is come in and bring an illuminating light to a league that is so deserving of it. She has done nothing to, I think, anger any of the greats of the game. She has lauded those who have come before her. And so when you bring up this topic, certainly the WNBA has areas that, they could have, I think, been better prepared for. The foul specifically on Kennedy Carter, like no question. That was a flagrant foul. That's a by-the-book flagrant foul. It's one of those where they have refereeing meetings with all the teams before the season. And I think you could clip that play and say that this is a by-the-book example of what we're talking about, and it was disappointing that the official standing right there missed it. But when you bring up this subject, and as I just kind of went into a dialogue there on, that's what's the most concerning to me. And concerning is maybe not the right word because I think she is built for this moment, and I think she will be just fine. But I'm putting myself in her shoes, somebody who's not as intelligent or mentally strong, and try to think what it would be like if that were me, and it would be really, really tough. And I hope some of the noise dies down, not the fervor around the excitement for Clark, but some of the unnecessary noise.
Well, and I think, Pat, that very well stated. You hope that the noise goes away. I think part of the frustration that some people feel is the fact that they haven't been able to get her to respond in a negative way. And I think that's a characteristic. One of the unfavorable characteristics of social media is the trying to bait people into respond. And Caitlin, throughout her college and now into her pro career, just has never gone down that path. Like very few athletes would be able to handle what she has been. The way that she has been piled on. and in the way she's been piled on, and even some of the actions on the court that would be able to handle it as well as she did. I want to ask another question, kind of the blunt question. Should Caitlin Clark have been selected to the USA Olympic basketball team, in your opinion?
I will not give you a blunt answer, but let me give you some context here, and this is my opinion on this question. If you look at every single Olympic team that the women have been involved in, it goes back to 1976. There has been a player 24 or under on that roster. Now, I think it would be a completely fair discussion for you and me to sit here and debate whether Caitlin Clark is a top 12 player right now. And if she's not that, I think she's probably close, but I think there's a plenty fair argument that she's not yet a top 12 player in the world. For those that don't regularly follow women's basketball or the WNBA, the U.S. Olympic team is stacked. I mean, there's no guarantee what's going to happen here. There are other countries, including Canada, which has made some serious inroads in the last decade or so in terms of talent. But that team is stacked. It is so good. And so when I look at where Caitlin Clark is now from a talent perspective, I think it's a fair conversation to say, I don't know that she's quite as good as any of those players yet. She will be. I think she'll be the best player in the world, and I don't think it will take all that long to get there. And she will, I think, unquestionably be part of the team in 4 years. The area I don't even want to say a problem, but a question is, there has been a 24-year-old or younger on every single U.S. Olympic team in every single year that it's existed on the women's side. So there has been value placed on playing a younger or placing a younger or two player on that roster. And what I would understand that to be, because I can't think of any other reason to do it, would be that it's the team saying, look, we want that player or two to have the experience of being on an Olympic team when they're young, so that way 4 years from now, it's not a brand new experience for them. So my only question would be, why now did we decide to divert from that path, especially when the last three number one overall draft picks in the WNBA, Ryan Howard in 2022, she was an all-star as a rookie and an all-star last year. Aaliyah Boston was an all-star as a rookie, the number one overall pick. In fact, she started the all-star game, and Caitlin Clark's going to make the all-star game. So the last three number one picks have all been all-stars in every year, or will be every year that they've been in the WNBA. So it's puzzling to me why this would be the year that you would go away from that. So I guess if I'm going to answer your question yes or no, I do think it's fair to have a conversation that she's not top 12. But yes, I do think she should have had it based on the parameters and should have made it based on the parameters of USA basketball and what they have set in every single previous year to this one.
Very well put, and I think, to me, I would sum it up by saying the USA Basketball was looking for a reason not to have Caitlin on the team to appease veteran players. That's my blunt take, because when you put her numbers up against Tarusi, they're virtually identical, and Tarusi's been in 5 Olympics and is 41 years old. Great player, one of the legends of the game. Deserves to be in the Olympics. But for the reasons I think you described in the past history and precedent that's been set, it's an interesting decision. Plus, let's just look at the bottom line. How it's been stated by many people, and we both know this, Pat. The viewership would go through the roof compared to what it's going to be now, even with this phenomenal team. So it was an interesting decision, to say the least. And unfortunately, Pat, we're out of time. I would love to continue this conversation, and I hope we can have another one as the WNBA season progresses. So thank you so much for making time today.
Hey, would love to do it again and appreciate the time from you guys.
Likewise, Pat Boylan, radio play-by-play voice of the Indiana Fever in the WNBA, joining us here on the Basketball Show. We're going to talk 3x3 next with Steve Sir, so stay tuned and stay in your seat. Go grab a coffee, and we'll see you in a few minutes here on Sports 1440. Welcome back to the Basketball Show, Sports 1440. I'm your host, Paul Sir, along with Kamal and Ryan. Pleased to be joined by Steve Sir this morning. Steve, thanks so much for coming on.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Steve, you're back in Canada. For people who don't know, Steve plays 3x3 professionally in Mongolia, where he, along with playing on the top Mongolian team, which I believe last time I looked, Steve is rated 12th in the world. Is that correct?
Yep, in and around there.
In and around there. And he's also the head coach of the men's and women's national team programs, from the senior teams to the U23, U18 teams. So very, very busy. Had an injury recently, so has come back to rehab and get ready for the upcoming Hoop City event. Steve, you guys won a challenger a couple of weeks ago. That was a high. A couple of weeks before that, you had the disappointment of not qualifying, doing everything but qualifying for the Olympics. Maybe talk us through what it was like to go through that experience in the Olympic qualifying tournament.
It was an interesting experience because of the pathway that the 3x3 qualifications work to get to the Paris Olympics this summer. There were 3 qualifying tournaments. First being what is called a universality tournament for countries that have not had any 5-on-5 representation in the last 2 Olympic cycles. The Mongolian men and the Mongolian women were both in that tournament. The second qualifying tournament was in a cup winner tournament. So if you had won at the Europe Cup, at the Asia Cup, at the America Cup, at the World Cup, these countries were in this tournament. In the universality, it was 8 countries. In the cup winning tournament, it was 8 countries. Both of these tournaments had 1 available spot. So a lot of pressure and not a lot of room for any type of issues. You either won and went to the Olympics or you didn't. The Mongolian men were in the cup winning tournament, as we had won the Asia Cup the previous year. And then the third qualifying tournament was a traditional Olympic qualifying tournament where you have 16 countries. The top 3 countries went. That was held in Debrecen, Hungary, and the Mongolian men and the Mongolian women were in that tournament as well. We came up short in the first one, progressed and got a little bit better, came up short in the second one. And in the third one, our men's team had a great showing. We were undefeated in pool play. We won our first crossover game against Israel. And then we went into what would be the deciding games to send teams to the Olympics. We lost by 2 to France after being up for the entire game. And then the last chance game, the losers of both the semifinals would go into a third place game with the winner heading to Paris. And similar situation. We were up on Poland for the entire game. We ended up losing in overtime on a 2-point shot. It would be important to note that these last 2 games were only played with 3 players due to an issue with our 4th player. So it was a heroic showing. The guys were incredible and played with a great deal of courage and heart. We just came up an inch short, a possession short of making history and sending the first Mongolian men's team to an Olympic event.
You've been very professional about not mentioning the fact of that there was not dwelling on the fact, rather, that you were only playing with 3 players, but because people appreciate hockey here, it would be like playing in the Stanley Cup with 2 lines, because anybody who watches 3x3 knows how exhausting it is. It
was very difficult circumstance for our guys. It wasn't a great thing that led to us playing with 3 players. It wasn't something that we in any way, shape, or form anticipated would happen. But most, especially now when you look back on it, the guys who played, the 3 athletes that were out there, did something that I have a hard time believing almost any other team in 3x3 would have been able to do, which is go out there twice and put their heart on the line and fight the way that they did and put themselves within an inch of doing something incredibly special. So more than anything, now that we've had time to move away from it, the heartbreak is still there. Everybody was very devastated that we didn't get the ultimate goal. But I do think that the majority of people that came away from it, myself included, felt nothing but pride for the guys with the way that they represented themselves and how they played under extremely difficult circumstance.
This is the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. I'm your host, Paul Sir, along with Ryan and Kamal. We're joined by Steve Sir, the top-ranked Canadian 3x3 player. Steve, you're 41 years old. You're still playing professionally. How do you do it?
One, I still love to play. That's probably the most important part. I still love to play. I guess the other right way to say that, I still love to compete. There is no other feeling that is the same of getting out there and competing against, other teams from all around the world in 3x3, seeing if the work that you do as a group individually still stacks up against the best players. I'm fortunate because I still feel like I'm playing at a high level. Our team is still playing at a high level. So that's always the goal, is if you're going to continue to play, are you able to still stack up against the best and have a good showing and have a strong showing to contend and compete to win. And then, there's a lot of other little things that go into it. As I am older, so I'd be lying if I said, I felt great all the time, but there's a lot of work and effort that goes into taking care of yourself, the things you eat, the things you don't eat, the way that you manage yourself in order to make sure that you're able to play the game. You always hear people say it as they get older, that they wish they would have knew certain things when they were younger, based on, how they feel and what they learned when they got older. And I'm lucky. I've been a guy that, I've always wanted to be a basketball player and play as long as I could and play at a high level. And one of the things that helped me was try to learn everything that I could about what I wanted to be. And as an older player, there's a great deal of information out there on what you can do to make sure that you're taking care of yourself the best way possible, and then you try and add that to your routine and your daily things. And then I'm also very fortunate. I work with a lot of good people here locally, like Craig Wilson at Pivotal Physiotherapy takes great care of me. A couple other people in the city that are really key people that help me stay healthy and help me, Erin Baker, who works at True Movement Pilates Studio. She's great with me. And, a big part of it is how you feel physically. And then on the basketball side of it, always trying to add to what you do and staying in the gym and trying to improve. That's, I guess that would be my little cocktail of playing at 41.
Well, playing at 41, you're an elite company in thin air in terms of players. Like, you start talking about players like Brady and LeBron now approaching 40. There's very few athletes in any level that go beyond 40. So, you're working at it, your passion for the game. But that also leads to the fact that, a lot of people say, well, why does Steve play in Mongolia? People don't associate Mongolia with sports excellence, but Mongolia has a very special 3x3 story. So maybe you could elaborate on that a bit.
Sure. Well, Mongolia is one of the countries that I think has seen what the real upside and exciting vision for 3x3 can be for a country like that, of, smaller, not a huge basketball history, and, just know however you cut it, there's 3 million people in the country. So when you look at 3x3, you need a good talent base, but a smaller talent base than what you would need for 5-on-5. And there's other countries that have found success in that in 3x3 as well, like a Holland. That's a great example of maybe not going to play on huge stages for 5-on-5 at the Olympics, but can get it done at the Olympic level for 3x3. And Mongolia has made a big effort in 3x3 since its inception, really, where they've held tournaments and brought people to the country and made a big effort to promote the sport and promote its country as well. But also providing things to excite the youth and to get people excited in that country about what can happen within its own borders, what basketball can do, how sport can connect people. And they've done an amazing job on that. And as a result of it, the sport has continued to grow. Mongolia is the leader for 3x3 in Asia. A lot of countries are looking to try and follow the roadmap that Mongolia has put out there of investing time and money and resources and bringing people to continue to grow the game and expand their knowledge. I've been fortunate to work with them for the last 3 years, but it's been a long journey of getting to know them at tournaments and competing against each other and sharing ideas until we finally decided that there was a way for us to work together and continue to not just build basketball within Mongolia, but promote the growth of 3x3 and try and do it the best we can of showing people that, sport is great, it's fun, it can provide opportunities, but also trying to do it the right way of promoting teamwork and hard work and commitment to the sport of how that equals success.
I'm talking with Steve Sir here on the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. So, Steve, we've got Hoop City 3x3 coming up in 3 weeks. We've got the World Tour on the men's side, a tremendous field of men's teams, and then the women's series featuring the number one ranked Olympic-bound Canada women's team, which is comprised of Michelle and Catherine Plouffe from Edmonton, and Paige Crozan and Casey Bosch, who live and work out of Lethbridge. So it's an all Alberta Olympic team. Steve, you've been involved with 3x3, I believe, since 2017 or 16?
2017.
So 2017, you got involved. You've been the top-ranked Canadian player for the last 6 to 7 years. Talk about what it means to you to be able to come back and play in Edmonton.
I felt this way last year when I came home and played in the event last summer. Is anytime you have a chance to play at home, it's special when you move past high school because you just don't know if there's going to be opportunities to really do that. Once you move into the collegiate world, unless you're playing at home, especially when you move into the professional world, the opportunities to be at home and compete in front of friends and family becomes smaller and smaller. So I'm really looking forward to being at home to play for that exact reason. My kids can be there, my wife can be there, my family can be there, friends can come. But I'm also excited too, for the girls, it's their last event before they head over to Paris to represent Canada at the Olympics. That'll be an exciting send-off for them. And then how the sport continues to grow here and continues to, foster interest in what 3x3 is, how it can be, not just an avenue to play at the high levels, but how it can be a good avenue for players to continue to improve, to create excitement, to continue to see what's out there. There's a lot of basketball out there. It's not limited to these, just these very specific areas that maybe we see the most of in North America, but there's a lot of basketball being played all around the world, and there's a lot of exciting opportunities for people. And I think what you'll really see if you're able to be at the event, and I hope as many people come out as they can, is all the players that come from all around the world that'll be at Hoop City and they'll be playing in Edmonton. They have a big passion, and they all have their own unique stories that are in the game. There's these different things that lead them all here. So I hope that people take the time to come out and watch and see the different styles, a team from China, a team from Mongolia, a team from Serbia, how they all play different ways, and how guys and girls have developed these styles over time through hard work, through persistence, through years of giving themselves to the sport. It's a great example for our youth. Should be a lot of fun for just basketball enthusiasts or people who just want to get out and enjoy a good event in Edmonton. So it'll be a lot of fun. I can't wait to be a part of it. Again, you never know how many chances you have to play at home, so I'm just looking forward to enjoying it and competing, and hopefully our team gets as good a result as possible.
Well, Steve, thanks so much for joining us today. Best of luck in working on getting ready for the event, and of course, best of luck in the event itself. Steve Sir, playing for Team Mongolia, top-ranked Canadian 3x3 player, joining us on the Basketball Show. I'm going to give a shout out to our community superstar partners. I'll start with EBOA. The Edmonton Basketball Officials Association is the premier basketball officiating group in Canada. Has one of the largest groups in Canada. Why don't you check them out at theeboa.com to look at all the different opportunities you might have to play or to become an official. We always need great officials in the community. They do a fantastic job of training. Also want to give a recognition to the Edmonton Basketball Association, Edmonton's original adult recreational basketball league, one of the largest and best run leagues in the country. Go to the EBA website, find out if you have a team that you can play with, and get out there and get active. Also, Fresh Nets, the Fresh Nets Foundation is a grassroots organization with one simple but lofty goal to ensure every outdoor basketball hoop has a fresh net. Thousands have been put up around the city of Edmonton. It's now going national and international. So when you see nets on basketball hoops, they don't happen by magic. A lot of those are put up by Reed Clark and his group of volunteers. And also the Africa Center. Africa Center is the largest Pan-African nonprofit in Western Canada and has served as a community hub offering culturally aware programs and services to diverse families, aiming to enhance participation in economic, social, cultural, and educational aspects of society. Africa Center will be front and center at our 3x3 event coming up. Lots of teams. They're going to have presence there. You can learn more about the Africa Center at the Hoop City 3x3 event coming up. And finally, the fantastic folks at the Wheelchair Sports Alberta, who run the provincial wheelchair basketball team that goes to the Canada Winter Games on every 4-year cycle. There will be a wheelchair division at the Hoop City 3x3. Come check it out. You can even try it yourself. They'll have wheelchairs there, and they're going to be a big part of our Hoop City 3x3. So, guys, let's just jump back to the good conversation we had with Pat Boylan about the Caitlin Clark and WNBA situation. Here's my question that I'll challenge you with. Is the WNBA fumbling this, or do you just view this as early growing pains in adapting to all this attention being placed on them due to the phenomenon that one player has created? Are they fumbling it? Is it an opportunity they're missing, or can they gather themselves and get back on track and take advantage of it?
Are you talking about the Olympic team or just the WNBA team?
WNBA.
I think it's going to be a process. As we've talked about earlier, WNBA hasn't had attention like this in a long time. Ever. Respectfully. And now they're starting to get that attention. It's going to be some growing pains, as we've seen, and there's going to be some promise for a future that's lucrative, maybe financially wise. So I think you can kind of see what can happen with it, with the attention it's getting with sold-out stadiums, going to bigger stadiums when Caitlin Clark comes to town. There's only going to be more stars coming into the WNBA this next generation here. And as younger fans, especially younger girls who are playing basketball, are going to make them fans. And as they grow up as adults, it'll be just more attention to the WNBA. Then by that point, the WNBA should be better with it. So maybe fumbling might be the wrong word right now. Maybe they're just learning. There's definitely made some mistakes, and their marketing, I think, is still somewhat of a mess. But as it progresses, it will get better, I think.
I agreed with everything you just said, except you're saying I used the wrong word. I'm just kidding. Fumbling. I know. Fair points. Okay, Kamal, you run a club basketball program. When we were off air, you were talking about that a lot of the time what people are talking about is Caitlin Clark. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so you're spot on with that. I think... So it's funny, we just started a basketball club, and with the girls' basketball teams that we have, they all resonate to Caitlin Clark. It's what they know, it's what they see, and she's going out there and being an athlete, and it's someone that everyone can look up to. As for the WNBA, I think they just don't know how to handle it. I think it's just a lot of things coming at them all at once, a lot of pressure. I think we got to be real here and understand the fact that the WNBA right now is breaking records. In Edmonton, we had a sold-out game, and I think we got to give kudos to the athletes that just came out, like Caitlin Clark, who kind of put WNBA back on track. I think women's basketball is growing, and I think Ryan is right. I think this is going to be a steady path forward, and it's just a matter of time that we start seeing the growth, the fruits and labor of what Caitlin Clark is bringing to the game into the new future.
Well, I think, too. I think what we're all feeling like is this is an uneven beginning to a very, very unexpected surge in popularity and attention. And with that come all these pressures that you have to navigate and all these voices that have their own very strong opinions on how you should navigate it. And that goes back to some of the things that we talked about with Pat Boylan was Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. If you've ever watched Asia Wilson or Brianna Stewart play, I mean, these women are phenomenal athletes. Why haven't they been as popular as Caitlin Clark? Caitlin Clark broke Pete Maravich's all-time scoring record. She was hitting shots that no other woman had hit before on a consistent basis in dramatic ways at the University of Iowa, and something just clicked. Again, Tiger Woods, Bird and Magic. The NBA was on the verge of failure until Bird and Magic showed up. This happens in sport. And so, yes, it's uneven. I just hope they don't mess this up. And I don't think they will. I think they'll adapt, adjust. It's uneven, but it will happen. It's exciting for women's sport to get this attention. We lost a couple of great legends recently in basketball. Bill Walton a couple of weeks ago, and this week, the sad passing of 86-year-old Jerry West. Everybody who watches the NBA sees Jerry West every time the NBA logo comes on, because he was the guy that they used, and I've seen the picture many times of the picture they used for the NBA logo of Jerry West. Because of so much time passing since West retired back in the early 70s, oftentimes we forget how players, what kind of numbers, what kind of accomplishments they have. He went to the finals 9 times. Unfortunately, there was another team called the Boston Celtics with Bill Russell, John Havlicek, Sam Jones, and on and on and on, also happened to be playing at that same time. And of the 9 times that the Lakers went to the finals, they won 1, lost 1 to the 1967 Philadelphia 76ers with Wilt Chamberlain, who eventually went to the Lakers and was one of the leaders to their championship in 1972. And the other ones they lost were all to Bill Russell's Boston Celtics, including the last series in 1969, when the Boston Celtics finished 4th in their division with a tired, worn-out, beaten-up Bill Russell, and found a way to beat the Lakers in 7. And in that series, it's the only time that a player from a losing team was named MVP, and that was Jerry West. Great, great athletes. Ryan, you've got a couple of texts to read, or a text to read.
Yeah, for sure. So Brew Crew texted in saying, Paul caught the Stingers versus Niagara. Loved the quickness of the game. Great ball to watch. More importantly, the stands were very full. And then he talked about the WM. He said, no publicity is bad publicity. Look what the impact of Serena Williams is to tennis. And that could be important there to mention. Some other stuff here is Nick texted in and said, do you know if there's a reason Jordan Baker isn't still playing? He's still young? Injuries? Does he play elsewhere?
He does not play elsewhere. This is a full-time gig for Jordan. He resigned from his job as the head coach of the Nate Ooks, still one of my favorite names. And Jordan is full-time as the coach and GM of the Edmonton Stingers. Could Jordan have continued playing? Absolutely. He just made the mindful, conscious choice that he wanted to move into coaching.
And lastly, Chomsker's texted in and said, I used to go to school with your son. I followed his playing career in San Diego, but he's doing something in the basketball community that is pretty cool. So he's an amazing shooter. We all know that.
He's an amazing shooter, and for everybody who hasn't heard me say it before, I'll say it again. Steve has held the NCAA Division I three-point career shooting percentage record for 17 consecutive years. Unthinkable. That's just absolutely ridiculous, and is recognized as the best shooter in the 3x3 world circuit. Like, he's won more shootouts than anybody else, but in games, he's as good a shooter as you're ever going to see. So, yeah, that's very true, and thanks for reaching out. Great comments on the Stingers. Anybody who goes to the Stingers games leaves satisfied. It's so that they're just so much fun to be at. And big shout out. Come to Hoop City 3x3. July 5th to the 7th, the women will play Friday, Saturday in their women's series. The men, and this lineup is stacked, including Jimmer Fredette and his Miami team. Most of the top teams in the world are going to be here. It is tremendous competition. We have our community Hoop City tournament going on. Lots of teams playing there. We've got food trucks. We've got entertainment. We've got a slam dunk competition. We've got a shootout, including a shootout for charity between Steve and Michelle and Catherine Plouffe. on the Sunday. They're going to shoot out for each other, and then our friends at Shoot 360 are going to be donating money to their favorite charity. There's activations all over the place, fun stuff for the kids to do, for families. You will have a great, great time. All right, NBA guys, can Dallas win another one? Last one, Kamal.
I think they do. And I think they go on a run after last win. Like I was saying, that's exactly the win you need in a Game 4 when your season's on the line. I think they build on this, and I think they, who knows, they might go all the way.
All right. But you're saying Dallas might make history.
Game 7.
Not taking too much from Game 4 there. Yes.
Yeah, just a little shout out, Jimmer Fredette, Sacramento legend. Always.
Yes.
There we go. Anyways, I do think the Mavericks win at least one game, but I don't think it happens. I was talking to my dad about it, and Kyrie still has to prove he wins on the road. He can't. He hasn't
never won in Boston.
So
I think he's 0-13
yeah,
against Boston.
First win in something like 14 games, I think my dad said. So
yeah,
if he wins, so it's important for him to establish on the road, because they have to win 2 more in Boston. And then I've been there. It's not easy to win, especially when the whole crowd's cheering that you suck and other stuff like that. So
and you're 100% right. Now, has Kyrie broken through on a number of levels? One of those being the hostile crowd chanting out. We'll see.
Yeah,
can Gafford and Lively do what they did in game 4, in the way they did it? Can the role players step up, hit shots, and of course, can Luka dominate as he did?
Take it one game. You got to take it one game at a time, right? You can't say we're doing 4 games. We have to win 4. You say let's win this one. We go back home, win that one, and then anything can happen in Game 7. You got to take it one game at a time.
Any sports psychologist will tell you the same thing. Control what you can control. Any coach will say the same thing. And all you can do is play this game. And of course, our Oilers have that challenge tonight when they face off against Florida, trying to stay alive and reestablish themselves in what has been a very, I know, challenging series for everybody to watch in Edmonton, but I have no doubt the fan park will be full and everybody in the streets will be quiet as everybody's glued to their TV tonight. Kamal Mali, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'd love to do this again.
Okay, looking forward to it. Keep your eye out for Kamal's social media tweets and all the stumbling here, all that he puts out on social media for the basketball show. Ryan, great to have you back. I'm glad you could share your experience in Boston with us.
Yeah, again, it's something you'll never forget, and I hope it's not my last NBA Finals experience.
I'm sure it won't be. So, great NBA Finals coming up. Oilers coming up tonight. Jays are playing. Stingers are back in town next Thursday. So get on out to Expo Center and Hall D. Watch them. Then the following Sunday they'll be playing here as well. So a couple of great home games coming up. Thanks so much for spending your Saturday morning with us, talking hoops here on the Basketball Show on Sports 1440. Have a great week on and off the court. And remember, in memory of my son Ben, be kind to each other. You do not know what people are going through in their lives. And make sure you tell those that are important in your lives that you love them. You can never say that enough. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next week.